In the dark shadows, in the white cold, fearlessly we search for knowledge new and old. We drink the strong spirits and read the ancient tomes. The order of the Abracast. We are the brave and the bold.
Concerning the true and perfect special arcanum of arsenic for the white tincture. Some persons have written that arsenic is compounded of mercury and sulfur, others of earth and water. But most writers say that it is of the nature of sulfur. But however that may be, its nature is such that it transmutes red copper into white. And it may also be brought to such a perfect state of preparation as to be able to tinge. But this is not done in the way pointed out by such evil sophists as Gerber in The Sum of Perfection, Albert Magnus, Aristotle the chemist in the Book of Perfect Magistry, Reyes and Polydorus. For those writers, however many they may be, are either themselves in error, or else they write falsely out of a sheer envy, and put forth receipts whilst not ignorant of the truth. Arsenic contains within itself three natural spirits. The first is volatile, combustible, corrosive, and penetrating all metals. This spirit whitens a Venus, and after some days renders it spongy. But this artifice relates only to those who practice the caustic art. The second spirit is crystalline and sweet. The third is a tinging spirit, separated from the others before mentioned. True philosophers seek for these three natural properties in arsenic with a view to the perfect projection of the wise men. But those barbers who practice surgery seek after the sweet and crystalline nature separated from the twinging spirits for use in the cure of wounds, buboes, carbuncles, anthrax, and other similar ulcers, which are not curable save by gentle means. As for this tinging spirit, however, unless the pure be separated from the impure in it, the fixes from the volatile, and the secret tincture from the combustible, it will not in any way succeed according to your wish for projection on Mercury, Venus, or any other imperfect metal. All philosophers have hidden this arcanum as a most excellent mystery, the tinging spirit separated from the other two as above, but must join to the spirit of Luna and digest them together for the space of 32 days, or until they have assumed a new body. After it has, on the 40th natural day, been kindled into flame by the heat of the sun, the spirit appears in a bright whiteness and is endued with the perfect tinging arcanum, then at its length fit for projection, namely on one part of it upon 16 parts of an imperfect body, according to the shapeness of the preparation. From thence appears shining and most excellent Luna, as though it had been dug from the bowels of the earth.
The Abracast, occult, history, conspiracy, and violence.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for tuning in. This is the Abercast, and I'm John Towers. I'll tell you what, bros. I've been cooking all fucking day. It's Christmas. I'm recording this Christmas, the night of Christmas Day, and I have been cooking my ass off. I've been cooking a lot. Whatever. Thank you for tuning in. I hope everybody had a great Christmas. I hope everybody got everything they needed and or wanted, and everybody is safe and sound. Especially you guys like me on the eastern side of the country. We got blasted by snow pretty good last night. So besides cooking, I also had to dig myself out of this blizzard-like conditions. But I hope everyone had a great Christmas, and I hope everyone is planning on having a good, safe New Year's. Remember, if you're good, get one of those Ubers or something, or a Lyft. I used to have a Lyft code that I would give out on one of my old podcasts. Is like a promotional code, but apparently they must have listened to the show and was like, we don't want to have our Lyft promo code for a show that talks so much about wizards and blowjobs. So for the last show of the year, we're just going to finish up this thing that we started last week, the Aurora of the Philosophers by Paracelsus. Theophrastus Paracelsus. He is the Aurora of the Philosophers, which he otherwise calls Monarchia. So the cold open was chapter 11, and it was called Concerning the True Perfect Special Arcanum of Arsenic for the White Tincture. So we're going to move on to chapter 12, the general instruction concerning the Arcanum of vitriol and the red tincture. I always add an extra syllable into that one when we're doing these alchemy episodes. Okay, general instructions concerning the Arcanum of vitriol and the red tincture to be extracted from it. Vitriol is a very noble material among the rest, and is held always in the highest estimation by philosophers because the Most High God has adorned it with wonderful gifts and have veiled its arcanum in an enigmatical figure. In enigmatical figures like the following: Thou shalt go to the inner parts of the earth, and by rectification thou shalt find the occult stone, a true medicine. By the earth they understood the vitriol itself, and by the inner parts of the earth its sweetness and redness. Because the occult part of the vitriol lies hid a subtle, noble, most fragrant juice in the pure oil. The method of its production is not to be approached by calcination or distillation, for it must be deprived on any account of its green color. If it were, it would at the same time lose its arcanum and its power. Indeed, it should be observed at this point that minerals and also vegetables and other like things which shew greenness without contain within themselves oil red like blood, which is their arcanum. Hence, it is clear that the distillations of the druggists are useless, vain, foolish, and of no value, because these people do not know how to extract the blood-like redness from vegetables. Nature herself is wise and turns all the waters of vegetables into a lemon color, and after that into an oil and very red like blood. The reason why this is so slowly accomplished arises from the too great haste of the ignorant operators who distill it, which causes the greenness to be consumed. They have not learnt to strengthen nature with their own powers, which is the mode whereby the noble green color ought to be rectified into redness of itself. An example of this white wine digesting itself into a lemon color, and in process of time, the green color of the grapes is of itself turned into the red, which underlines the Corellian. The greenness, therefore, of the vegetables and the minerals will be lost by the incapacity of the operators. The essence, also in the spirit of the oils and of the balsam, which is noblest among the arcana, will also perish. Chapter 13. Special instruction concerning the process of vitriol for the red tincture. Vitriol contains within itself many muddy and vicious imperfections. Therefore, its greenness must be often extracted with water and rectified until it puts off all impurities of earth. When all these rectifications are finished, take care, above all, that the matter shall not be exposed to the sun, for this turns its greenest pale, and at the same time absorbs the arcanum. Let it be kept covered up and in a warm stove, so that no dust may defile it. Afterwards, let it be digested in a closed glass vessel for the space of several months, or until different colors and deep redness shew themselves. Still, you must not suppose that by this process the redness is sufficiently fixed. It must, in addition, be cleansed from the interior and accidental defilements of the earth, and in the following manner. It must be rectified with acetum until the earthly defilement is altogether removed and the dregs are taken away. This is now the true best rectification of its tincture, from which the blessed oil is to be extracted, and from this tincture, which is carefully enclosed in a glass vessel and an alembic afterwards placed on it and luted so that no spirit may escape. The spirit of this oil must be extracted by distillation over a mild and slow fire. Mild and slow fire. That's exactly how I did my green bean casserole in a skillet this morning. This afternoon. This oil is much pleasanter. Why didn't you just use the oven? It's because green bean casserole in an oven, anybody can do that. All right? That's what I'm saying. This oil is much pleasanter and sweeter than any aromatic balsam of the drug sellers, being entirely free from all acridity. There will subdue in the bottom of the cucubrite some very white earth, shining and glittering like snow. This keep and protect from all dust. The same earth is altogether prepared from its redness. Thereupon follows the greatest arcanum, that is to say, the super celestial marriage of the soul, consummately prepared and washed by the blood of the Lamb. Jesus Christ, can I get an amen? With its own splendid, shining, and purified body, this is the true supercelestial marriage by which life is prolonged, and the last and predestined day In this way, then, the soul and the spirit of the vitriol, which are its blood, and joined with this purified body, that they may be for eternity inseparable. Take, therefore, this our folated earth in a glass phial. Into it pour gradually its own soil. The body will receive and embrace its soul. Since the body is affected with extreme desire for the soul, and the soul is the most perfectly delighted with the embrace of the body, place its conjunction in a furnace of arcana, and let it there for 40 days. When these have expired, you will have the most absolute oil of wondrous perfection, in which mercury and any other of the imperfect metals are turned into gold. Now let us turn our attention to its multiplication. Take the corporeal mercury, and in the proportion of 2 parts, pour it over 3 parts equal in weight of the aforesaid oil, and let them remain together for 40 days. And by this proportion of weight, in this order, the multiplication becomes infinite. There you go. Anybody have a chemistry set? In a lot of time. Does anyone have a chemistry set in 40 days? Try this experiment and let me know. You can just send me some gold. Walking around looking like Mr. T. Where'd you get that from, son? I made it. I made it with this oil. Secret oil. Chapter 14. Concerning the secrets of arcana and antimony. Concerning the secrets of arcana and antimony for the red tincture, with a view to transmutation. Antimony is the true bath of gold. Philosophers call it the examiner and the stylinx. Poets say that it is the bath Vulcan washed Phoebus and purified him from all dirt and imperfection. It is produced from the purest and noblest mercury and sulfur, under the genus of vitriol, in metallic form and brightness. Some philosophers call it the white lead of the wise men, or simply the lead. Take therefore of antimony, the very best of its kind, as much as you will. Dissolve it in its own aqua fortis, and throw it into cold water, adding a little of the crocus of Mars. I wonder what that is. So that it may sink to the bottom of the vessel as a sediment, or otherwise it does not throw off its dregs after it has been dissolved in this way, will have acquired supreme beauty, and let it be placed in a glass vessel closely fastened on all sides with a very thick lute, or else in a stone bacha, B-O-C-I-A, bocia, and mix it with some calcinated tutia, sublimated to the perfect degree of fire. It must be carefully guarded from liquefying, because with too great heat, it breaks the glass. From 1 pound of this antimony, a sublimation is made, perfect for a space of 2 days. Place this sublimated substance into a phial, that it may touch the water with its third part in a luted vessel, so the spirits may not escape. Let it be suspended over a tripod of arcana, and let the work be urged on. At first with a slow fire equal to the sun's heat at midsummer, then at length, and on the 10th day let it be gradually increased, for with too great heat the glass vessels are broken, and sometimes even the furnace goes to pieces. While the vapor is ascending, different colors appear, Let the fire be moderated until a red matter is seen. Afterwards, dissolve in very sharp acetum and throw away the dregs. And let the acetum be abstracted and let it again be dissolved in common distilled water, and again must be abstracted and the sediment distilled with a very strong fire in a glass vessel closely shut. The whole body of the antimony will ascend as a very red oil like the color of a ruby, and it will flow into the receiver drop by drop with a most fragrant smell and a very sweet, taste. This is the supreme arcanum of the philosophers in Antimony, which they account most highly among the arcana of oils. Then, lastly, let the oil of Sol be made into the following ways. Take the purest of Sol, as much as you will, and dissolve it in a rectified spirit of wine. Let the spirit be abstracted several times, and in an equal number of times let it be dissolved again. Remember, it's all about the taking of something, breaking it down, solidifying it, breaking it down, coagulating it, and then solving it. And then the last solution be kept with the spirits of wine and circulated for a month. And afterwards, let the volatile gold and the spirit of wine be distilled 3 or 4 times by means of an alembic, so that it may flow down into the receiver and be brought to its supreme essence. To half an ounce of this dissolved gold, let 1 ounce of the oil of antimony be added. This oil embraces it in the heat of the bath, so that it does not easily let it go. Even in the spirit of wine be extracted. This way you will have the supreme mystery of the arcanum of nature, to which scarcely any equal can be assigned to the nature of things, and let these 2 oils in combination be shut up together in a phial after the manner described, hung on a tripod for the philosophical month, and warmed with a very gentle fire. Although if the fire be regulated in dire proportion, this operation is concluded in 31 days. And brought to perfection. By this, mercury and any other imperfect metals might acquire the perfection of gold. 15. Concerning the protection to be made by the mystery of the arcanum of antimony. No precise weight can be assigned in this work of projection, though the tincture itself may be extracted from a certain subject in a defined proportion and with fitting appliances. For instance, that medicine tinges sometimes 30, 40, occasionally even 60, 80, or 100 parts of this imperfect metal. So then, the whole business hinges chiefly on the purification of the medicine, in the industry of the operator and the next, on the greater or lesser cleanliness and purity of the imperfect body taken in hand. For instance, one Venus is more pure than another, and hence it happens that no one fixed weight can be specified in projection. This alone is worth noting, that if the operator happens to have taken too much of the tincture, he can correct this mistake by adding more of the imperfect metal. But if there be too much of the subject, so that the powers of the tincture are weakened, this error is easily remedied by the sideritium, or by cementations, or by ablutions in crude antimony. So this is what happened with my green bean casserole. it was too soupy. I made it, and it was too soupy. I put too much of the soup part in it. So I tried to drain it, and that didn't work. And then I'm like, well, what am I going to do? Because it's so soupy. So I did just like what Paracelsus here is instructing them to do for this. I added a little bit of flour, stirred it in, still a little too soupy, add a little bit more flour in there, still a little bit more flour, you know what I'm saying? There is nothing at this stage which need delay the operator, only let him put before himself a fact which has been passed over by the philosophers and by some studiously veiled, namely that in projections there must be revivifications. That is to say, an animation of imperfect bodies, nay, so to speak, a spiritualization concerning which some have said that their metals are no common ones, since they live and they have a soul. Oh yeah, that's good. If you remember back a couple alchemy episodes ago, my dick got real hard about a living, and I kind of came up with this idea by reading these. I can't even remember which episode it was, about an alchemist fucking something up or doing something really good and turning himself into a philosopher's stone. So he's like a philosopher's stone golem. God, that's money, dude. So we're talking about animating this, animating these imperfect bodies. Animation is produced in the following way. The text says, take of Venus, wrought into small plates, as much as you will, 10, 20, or 40 pounds, and let these be encrusted with a pulse made of arsenic and calcinated tartar, and calcinated in their own vessel for 24 hours. Then at length let the Venus be pulverized, washed, and thoroughly purified. Let the calcination with ablution be repeated 3 or 4 times. In this way it is purged and purified from its thick greenness, from its own impure sulfur. You will have to be on your guard against calcinations made with common sulfur, for whatever is good in the metal is spoilt thereby, and with what is bad becomes worse. To the 10 marks of this purged Venus, add 1 of pure Luna. But in the order that the work of the medicine may be accelerated by projection and may more easily penetrate the imperfect body and drive out all portions which are opposed to the nature of Luna, this is accomplished by means of a perfect ferment. For the work is defiled by means of an impure sulfur, so that a cloud is stretched over the surface of the transmuted subjects, or the metal is mixed with the loopings of the sulfur and may be cast away therewith. But if a projection of a red stone is to be made with a view to a red transmutation, it must first fall on gold, afterwards on silver, or on some other metal thoroughly purified, as we have directed above. From thence arise the most perfect gold. 16. Concerning the universal matter of the Philosopher's Stone. After the mortification of vegetables, they are transmuted by the occurrence of 2 minerals, such as sulfur and salt, into a mineral nature, so that at length they themselves become perfect minerals. So it is that in mineral burrows and caves of the earth the vegetables are found in the long succession of time, and by the continuous heat of sulfur put off by the vegetable nature and assume that of the mineral. This happens for the most part where the appropriate nutriment is taken away from the vegetables of this kind, so that they are afterwards compelled to derive their nourishment from the sulfur and the salts of the earth until what was before vegetable passes over into a perfect mineral. From this mineral state, too, or sometimes a perfect metallic essence arises. And this happens by the progress of one degree or another, but let us return to this philosopher's stone. The matter of this, as certain writers have mentioned, is above all else difficult to discover and abstruse to understand. The method has most certain rule for finding out this as well as other subjects, what they embrace or are able to effect is a careful examination of the root and by seed by which they come to our knowledge. For this, before all things else, a consideration of principles is absolutely necessary, and also of the manner in which nature proceeds from imperfection to the end of perfection. Now, for this consideration, it is well to have it thoroughly understood from the first that all things created by nature consist of three primal elements, namely natural mercury, sulfur, and salt in combination, so that in some substances they are volatile, in others they are fixed. Wherever corporeal salt is mixed with the spiritual mercury and animated sulfur into one body, then nature begins to work in those subterranean places which serve for her vessels by means of separating fire by this thick impulse, and impure sulfur is separated from pure. The earth is segregated from the salt, and the clouds from mercury, while those purer parts are preserved, in which nature again welds together into a pure geometric body. This operation is esteemed by the Magi as a mixture and the conjunction by the uttering of three constituents: body, soul, and spirit. When this union is completed, there results from it a pure mercury. Now, if this, when flowing down through its subterranean passages and veins, meets with the chaotic sulfur, the mercury is coagulated by it according to the condition of the sulfur. It is, however, still volatile, so that scarcely in 100 years it is transformed into a metal. Hence arose the vulgar idea that mercury and sulfur are the matter of metals, as is certainly reported by miners. It is not, however, common mercury and common sulfur which are the matter of the metals, but the mercury and the sulfur of the philosophers are incorporated and inborn in a perfect metals, and in the forms of them, so that they never fly from the fire, nor are they depraved by the source of the corruption caused by the elements. It is true that by the dissolution of the natural mixture, our mercury is subdued. As all the philosophers say under the form of words, our mercury comes to be drawn from perfect bodies and from the forces of the earthly planets, and this is what Hermes asserts in the following terms: the sun and the moon are the roots of this art. The son of Hamuel says that the stone of the philosophers is water coagulated, namely in Sol and Luna. From this it is clear, then, that the material of the stone is nothing else but Sol and Luna. This is confirmed by the fact that the like produces like, and we know that there are only two stones, the white and the red. Here we go. The red dragon and the white phoenix, or the white dragon and the red phoenix, the white lion and the red. There are there are also two matters of the stone, Sol and Luna, formed together in a proper marriage, born natural and artificial. Now, as we see that man or the woman without the seed of both cannot generate, in the same way our man, Sol, and his wife, Luna, cannot conceive or do anything in the way of generation without the seed and sperm of both. Hence the I'm literally just an 8th grader, just gathered that that a third thing was necessary, namely the animated seed of both, the man and the woman, without which they judged what the whole of their work was fruitless and in vain. Such sperm is Mercury, which is the natural conjunction of both bodies, Sol and Luna, receives their nature into itself, a union. Then at length, and not before, the work is fit for congress, ingress, and generation, by the masculine and the feminine, power and virtue. Hence the philosophers had said the same. Mercury is the compound of body, spirit, and soul, and that it has assumed the nature and property of all elements. Therefore, with their most powerful genius and intellect, they asserted their stone to be animal. They even called it their Adam, who carried his own invisible Eve hidden in his body from that moment in which they were united by the power of the supreme God, the maker of all creatures. For this reason, it may be said that the Mercury of the Philosopher's Stone is none other than their most abstruse compound Mercury, and not the common Mercury. So then they have wisely said to the sages that theirs is in Mercury whatever wise men seek. Almader, the philosopher, says, we extract our Mercury from one perfect body and two perfect natural conditions incorporated together, which indeed puts forth external its perfections, whereby it is able to resist the fire, so that its internal imperfections may be protected by the external perfections. By this passage, I'm going to take a shot in the dark. By this passage, the sagacious philosopher is understood the Adamic matter, the limbus of the microcosm, and the homogeneous, unique matter of the philosophers. The sayings of these men, which we have before mentioned, are simply golden, and ever to be held in the highest esteem, because they contain nothing superfluous or without force. Summarily, then, the matter of the Philosopher's Stone is none other than a fiery and perfect Mercury extracted by the nature and art. That is, the artificially prepared and true hermaphrodite atom in the microcosm, the wisest of the philosophers, Mercurius, making the same statement, called the stone an orphan, our Mercury, therefore is the same which contains in itself all of the perfections, force, virtues of the sun, which also runs through the streets and the houses of all the planets, and in its own rebirth has acquired the force of all things above and things below, the marriage of which it is to be compared, as is clear from the whiteness and the redness combined within it.
Learn more at abracast.com. Get bonus content by signing up for the mailing list.
17. Concerning the preparation of the matter for the philosophic stone. What nature principally requires is that its own philosophic man should be brought into a mercurial substance, so that it may be born into the philosophic stone. Moreover, it should be remarked that those common preparations of Gerber, Albertus Magnus, Thomas Aquinas, Ruprecht Asia, Polydorus, and such men are nothing more than some particular solution, sublimations and calcinations, having no reference to our universal substance, which needs only the most secret fire for the philosophers. Let the fire and Azoc therefore suffice for you. From the fact that the philosophers make mention of certain preparations such as putrefaction, distillation, sublimation, calcination, coagulation, deoblination, rubification, ceration, fixation, and the like, you should understand that in their universal substances, nature herself fulfills all of these operations in the matter spoke of, and not the operator, only in a philosophical vessel, and with similar fire, but not common fire. The white and the red spring from one root without any intermediary. It is dissolved by itself, and it copulates by itself, and it grows white, and it grows red, and made crocus colored by the black, it made crocus colored and black by itself. It marries itself, and it conceives itself. God, let me back up. I fucked that all up. The white and the red spring from one root without any intermediary, and it dissolves by itself, and it copulates by itself, and it grows white, and it grows red, is made crocus-colored and black by itself, marries itself, and conceives in itself. It is therefore to be decocted, to be baked, to be fused, and it ascends and it descends, and all of these operations are a single operation and produced by the fire alone. Still, some philosophers, nevertheless, have, by a highly graduated essence of wine, dissolved the body of soul and rendered it volatile, so that it should ascend through the alchemic, thinking that this is the true volatile manner of the philosophers, though it is not so. And although it is to be contemptible arcanum to reduce this perfect metallic body into a volatile spiritual substance, yet they are wrong in their separation of the elements. This process of the monks, such as the lully Richard of England, Rapuscia, and the rest, is erroneous. By this process, they thought that they were going to separate gold after the fashion into a subtle spiritual and elementary power, each by itself, and afterwards by circulation and rectification to combine them again into one, but in vain. For although one element may in a certain sense be separated from another, yet nevertheless every element separated into its way can again be separated into yet another element. But these elements cannot afterwards, by circulation in a pelican or by distillation, be again brought back into one. But they always remain a certain volatile matter, and aromatable, as they themselves call it. The reason why they could not compass their intentions is that nature refuses to be in this way dragged asunder and separated by man's disjunctions, as by earthly glasses and instruments. She alone knows her own operations and the weights and elements and the separations, rectifications, copulations of which she brings about without the aid of any operator or manual artifice, provided only the matter contained in the secret fire and of its proper occult vessel. The separation of the elements, therefore, is impossible by man, and may appear to take place, but not in true, whatever may be said by Raymond Lully, and of that famous English golden work which he is falsely supposed to have accomplished, nature herself has within herself the proper separator, who again joins together what he has put asunder. Without the aid of man, she knows the best proportion of every element, and which man does not know, however misleading writers romance in their frivolous and false recipes about this volatile gold. This is the opinion of the philosophers. And when they have put their matters into a more secret fire, and when, with a moderated philosophical heat, it is cherished on every side, beginning to pass on into corruption, and it grows black. This operation they term putrefaction, and they call it the blackness by the same name of the crow's head. The ascent and descent thereof they term distillation, ascension, and descension. Excitation they call coagulation, and the deabolation they call the calcination. While, because it becomes fluid and soft in the heat, they make mention of suration, which, when it ceases to ascend and remains liquid at the bottom. And they say fixation is present. In this manner, it is the terms of philosophical operations are to be understood and not otherwise. 18. Concerning instruments in the philosophic vessel. Sham philosophers have misunderstood the occult and the secret philosophic vessels. The worst is that which is said by Aristoteles the alchemist. It is not the famous Greek academic philosopher, giving it out in the manner to be decocted in a triple vessel. Worst of all is that which is said by another, namely, that the matter in its first separation, the first degree, requires a metallic vessel. And in its second degree of coagulation and deabolation of its earth and glass vessel. And in the third degree for fixation, the earthen vessel, nevertheless, hereby the philosophers understand one vessel alone is all the operation up to the perfection of the red stone. Since then, our matter is our root for the white and the red. Necessarily, our vessel must be so fashioned that the matter in it may be governed by the heavenly bodies, for invisible celestial influences and the impressions of the stars are in the very first degree necessary for the work. Otherwise, it would be impossible for the Oriental, Chaldean, and Egyptian stone to be realized. By the Anaxagoras knew the power of the whole firmament and foretold that the great stone would descend from heaven to earth, which actually happened after his death. And the Kabbalist, our vessel, is perfectly well known because it must be made accordingly to true geometrical proportions and measure, and from a definite quadrapture of the circle. So it is so that the spirit and the soul of our matter, separated from their body, may be able to raise this vessel, and without themselves in proportion to the altitude of heaven. If the vessel be wider, narrower, higher, or lower than is fitting, and then the dominating, operating spirit and soul desire the heat of our secret philosophical fire, will violently excite the matter and urge it onto excessive operation. So the vessel is shriveled into 1,000 pieces with imminent danger to the body and even to the life of the operator. On the other hand, if it be greater capacity than is required is in due for the heat to have effect on the matter, the work will be wasted and thrown away. So then our philosophic vessel must be made with the greatest of care. What the material of the vessel should be understood only by those who, in the first solution of our fixed and perfected matter, have brought that matter to its own primal quintessence. Enough has been said on this point. The operator must also very accurately note what in the first solution the matter sends forth and rejects from itself. The method of describing the form of the vessel is difficult and should be such as nature requires, and it must be sought out and investigated from every possible source, so that from the height of the philosophic heavens, elevated above the philosophic earth, it may be able to operate on the fruit of its own earthly body. It should have this form too, in order that the separation and purification of the elements, when the fire drives one from the other, may be able to be accomplished, and that each may have the power to occupy that place which it adheres. And also the sun and the other planets may exercise their operations around the elemental earth, while their course in the circuit is neither hindered nor agitated with too swift a motion. In all these particulars, which have been mentioned and must have a proper proportion of rotundity and of height, the instruments for the first purification of material bodies are fusing vessels, bellows, tongs, couples, tests, cementatory vessels, sanitariums, cuberites, Boxias again here, aquafortis, then aqua regia, and also the appliances which are required for projection at the climax of the work. (19) Concerning the secret fire of the philosophers. This is a well-known, God damn it, sententious saying of the philosophers. Let fire and Azoc suffice thee. Fire alone is the whole work and the entire art. Moreover, they who build their fire and keep their vessels in the heat are in error. In vain, some have attempted with the heat of... You can't get through one alchemy episode without shit talk. In vain, some have attempted it with the heat of horse dung. By the coal fire without a medium, they have sublimated their matter, but they have not dissolved it. Others have gotten their heat from lamps, asserting that in this secret fire of the philosophers for making their stone, some have placed it in a bath, first of all in heaps of ants, eggs, and other juniper ashes. Some have sought the fire in quicklime and tartar, vitriol, nitrate. Others again have sought it in boiling water. Thomas Aquinas speaks falsely of this fire, saying that God and the angels cannot do with this fire, but use it daily. What blasphemy is this? Is not all manifest lie that God is able to do without the element heat of boiling water? All the heats excited by those means which have been mentioned are utterly useless for our work. Take care not to be misled by Arnold D. Villanova, who has written on the subject of the coal fire, for in this matter he will deceive you. Almadir says that invisible rays of our fire of themselves suffice. Another cites as an illustration the heavenly heat. by its reflection tends to the coagulation and the perfection of mercury. Just as by its continual motion it tends to the generation of metals. Again, says this same authority, make a fire vaporous, digesting, as for cooking, continuous, but not volatile or boiling, enclosed, shut off from the air, not burning, but altering and penetrating. Now, in truth, I have mentioned every mode of fire and of exciting heat. If you are a true philosopher, you will understand. This is what he says. Salmanzar remarks, ours is a corrosive fire which brings over our vessel an air like a cloud, in which cloud the rays of this fire are hidden. If this dew of chaos and this moisture of the cloud fail, a mistake has been committed. Again, Almader says that unless the fire has warmed our sun with its moisture by the excrement of the mountain with a moderate ascent, we shall not be partakers either in the red or the white stone. All of these matters shew quite openly to us the occult fire of the wise men. Finally, this is the matter of our fire, namely, that it be kindled by the quiet spirit or the sensible fire which drives upwards, as it were, the heated chaos from the opposite quarter and above our philosophic matter. This heat glowing above our vessel must urge it to the motion of the perfect generation, temperately but continuously, without intermission. 20. Concerning the ferment of the philosophers and the weight. Philosophers have labored greatly in the art of ferments and fermentations, which seem important above all others. With reference thereto, some have made a vow to God and to the philosophers that they would never divulge its arcanum by similitudes or by parables, which is hilarious because I think that's all this is a parable, a similitude. Nevertheless, Hermes, the father of all philosophers, in the book of the 7 treatises, most clearly discloses the secret of ferments, saying that they consist only of their own paste. And more at length, he says that the ferment whitens, the confection hinders, combustion altogether retards the flux in the tincture, consoles bodies and amplifies unions. He says also that this is the key at the end of the work, concluding that the ferment is nothing but paste, and the sun is nothing but sun, and the moon is nothing but moon. Others affirm that the ferment is the soul, and this be not rightly prepared by the magistry of effect. It affects nothing. Some zealots of this art seek art in common sulfur, arsenic, tuchia, aureo, pigment, vitriol, etc., but in vain, since the substance which sought is the same as that from which it has to be drawn forth. It should be remarked, therefore, that the fermentations of this kind do not succeed according to the wishes of the zealots. In this way they desire, but it is clear from what has been said above, simply in the way of natural success. But to come at lengths to the weight, this must be noted in 2 ways. The first is natural, the second is artificial. The natural attains that the results in the earth by nature and concordance. Of this, Arnold says, if more or less earth than nature requires to be added, the soul is suffocated, and no result is perceived, nor any fixation. It is the same with the water. If more or less of this be taken, it will bring a corresponding loss. The superfluity remains the matter unduly moist, and a deficiency makes it too dry and too hard. If there be overmuch air present, it is too strongly impressed on the tincture. If there is too little, the body will turn out pallid. The same way, if the fire be too strong, the matter is burnt up. If it be too slack, it is not the power of drying, nor dissolving, nor heating the other elements. In these things, elemental heat consists. Artificial weight is quite occult. It is comprised in the magical art of the ponderations between the spirit, the soul, and the body. Say philosophers, weight consists of sulfur as the director of the work, for the soul strongly desires sulfur and necessarily observes it by reason of its weight. You can understand it thus. Our matter is united to a red fixed sulfur, to which a third part of the regimen has been entrusted, even to the ultimate degree, so that it may perfect to infinity the operation of the stone, may remain therewith together with its fire, and may consist of an equal weight to the matter itself, and in through all without variation of any degree. Therefore, after the matter has been adapted and mixed to its own proportionate weight, it should be closely shut up in, we know what's next, right? It should be closely shut up with a seal and, Therefore, after the matter has been adapted and mixed in a proportionate weight, it should closely be shut up with its seal in a vessel of the philosophers, and committed to the secret fire. With this philosophic sun will rise and surge up, and it will illuminate all things that have been looking for his light, expecting it with the highest hope. In these few words, we will conclude the arcanum of the stone, an arcanum which is in no way maimed or defective, for which we give God undying thanks. Now we have opened to you our treasure, which is not to be paid for by the riches of the whole world. Here ends the Aurora of the Philosophers. Hey, this is the Advertise. I've been John Towers. Hey, the newsletter is going to be real light this month. I have like a million things going on. Anyhow, I will put my operation for my skillet green bean casserole in the newsletter if you're interested in trying it for yourself. Like I said, this has been the Advercast. I've been John Towers. Thank you guys very much for listening. Please be safe this coming New Year's. I know a lot of people are still in quarantine or still locked down or whatever. And when I say being safe, I'm not talking about wear your mask, stay 6 feet away from me. I'm talking about watch out for the cops, bro, because they're looking for you. They're looking for us. They're looking for all of us. And they don't give a fuck about your Fifth Amendment rights. So if you've been drinking, call a Lyft or Uber or whatever. Call a friend. We'll fucking walk home. Just pass out in someone's bathtub. I done that one time. I woke up with Miss Weinzaffel peeing in the toilet. And I'm like, what? She's like, just go back to sleep, Johnny. It's fine. All right. Have a good, safe New Year's, everybody. And I'll see you all on the other side. You know, I've been thinking about doing like a special thing. I don't know if I am. I don't know. Okay. Anyways, regardless, I will see you on the other side. Friends, I love you all. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Send an email or visit us on social media to let us know what you think about this topic. And please remember to leave a 5-star rate and review.
Hey, did you learn something? Did you laugh? Supporting me is a way for you to be a part of the Abercast and ensure its growth and sustainability. It also means I can create a normal schedule for shows and bonus shows, as well as the exclusive Fellowcraft episodes. By supporting the show, you are not only a listener, but you are a part of the show. You supporting the show gives me a way to offer fun rewards as a thank you for showing your appreciation and support for our projects. Do you have an idea for a reward that you don't see? Let me know. My supporters are my partners. I currently pay for you to listen to the Abercast. Not only do I pay the hosting bills out of my own pocket, I volunteer my time and talent to each and every episode of the Abercast. The price of books, the time and resources of reading and researching, the massive amounts of gin and tonic needed, the equipment it takes to record the shows, the time and resources it takes to create the bonus material, and the cost to maintain the internet presence. Is it worth your support? I don't know. I'm proud of the Abercast, and I feel like I'm improving all the time. In addition to creating the show that you dig and that you are excited about, I also have a full-time commitment and other obligations. So why financial support? All of the supporters help me focus my time on the quality and development of the podcast. And what if you can't afford, $1 or $3 or $10 or whatever a month? Believe me, I get that. There are many degrees of support, but if you can't support the show financially, please consider leaving a 5-star rate and review on your preferred podcast app. And don't forget that you could sign into the mailing list and still unlock a lot of bonus content. Thank you. I cannot put into words how much it means to me that you listen to the show each time I post a new episode. Your feedback, support, and love of the stories that we talk about here is what keeps me going.